When the pandemic first began, no one expected it to change the meaning of work. Offices closed overnight, streets emptied. The sound of footsteps and chatter was replaced by the quiet hum of laptop fans. At first, it was strange. We woke up late, opened our computers in pajamas, and joined meetings from the corners of our bedrooms. There was confusion, fear, but also something quietly liberating. For the first time in years, we were no longer rushing. The long commutes, the crowded elevators, the endless small talk, they were gone. What remained was stillness, and in that stillness, something inside us began to shift. In the early months, people called it the Great Experiment. Companies were skeptical, yet surprisingly, things still worked. Projects continued, clients were served, deadlines were met. Many employees found themselves more focused, less stressed. Without the morning rush or late-night traffic, they discovered hours that had been lost to commuting. Parents ate breakfast with their kids. Young professionals finally had time to cook a real meal. For a moment, it felt like the world had found a softer rhythm. The promise of remote work became a kind of modern myth. Articles celebrated its success. Influencers posted photos of beachside workspaces and cozy home offices. Productivity apps exploded in popularity. We began to believe that the future of work had arrived and that maybe the old system had been wrong all along. But beneath the surface, something else was happening. The boundary between work and life began to blur. The kitchen table became a desk. The bedroom turned into a meeting room. We told ourselves that it was freedom, but the more we worked, the less we rested. The emails didn't stop at 5 p.m. The notifications followed us into dinner, into the night, even into our dreams. It was not the office walls that had kept us confined. It was the idea that we must always be available. Still, many of us loved this new reality. We felt trusted. We felt in control. For once, we didn't need to prove that we were working. The results spoke for themselves. Companies began to realize that people didn't need to be watched to be productive. In fact, some employees worked harder than ever, maybe too hard. Because when the line between home and work disappears, guilt becomes your new manager. If you're not online, you feel lazy. If you're resting, you feel behind. It was in this strange mix of freedom and fatigue that the real question emerged. Was remote work the future, or just a temporary illusion born from crisis? Some people called it a revolution. Others called it an accident of survival. But either way, we knew one thing for sure. The world of work would never be the same again. When restrictions began to ease, the conversation shifted. Should we go back to the office? Do we even need offices anymore? Some companies, like Twitter and Shopify, announced that remote work would be permanent. Others, like Google and Apple, called people back at least 3 days a week. The debate grew louder. What is the right way to work? Is it about productivity, connection, or control? The pandemic had revealed something deeper than logistics. It showed us that work had never really been about location. It was about trust. For decades, we equated presence with performance. But suddenly, we saw that results could come from anywhere, as long as the trust was there. And once that realization took root, there was no going back. For employees, remote work meant choice. For companies, it meant adaptation. But for both sides, it demanded something harder: discipline, empathy, and communication. The tools were easy: Zoom, Slack, Teams. The challenge was human. How do you build culture when people are just tiny faces in rectangles? How do you keep connection alive without shared space? Many of us learned that freedom without structure can be both beautiful and exhausting. We could design our days, but we also had to design our boundaries. The dream of working in comfort came with an invisible cost: loneliness. The casual hallway conversations, the spontaneous ideas born over coffee, all gone. Work became quieter, more private, but also more distant. Still, deep down, something had changed forever. We had tasted a different way of living and working, and no matter how many companies reopened their doors, that taste wouldn't fade. We realized that the future wouldn't belong entirely to offices or to remote desks. It would belong to balance. The pandemic didn't just change our routines, it changed our values. The turning point was not about where we worked. It was about how we defined work itself. The old idea that productivity requires proximity was gone. In its place grew a new vision, one that values trust, autonomy, and purpose over presence. We learned that work could happen anywhere, but meaning still needed connection. And as the world slowly found its rhythm again, we began to ask, not where should we work, but how should we live? At first, working from home felt like a dream. The world outside was uncertain, but inside our small rooms, we built islands of control. We arranged our desks beside windows, surrounded ourselves with small comforts, plants, candles, soft light. There was a quiet pride in creating our own space, in shaping a rhythm that finally belonged to us. We called it balance, but what we were really building was a fragile kind of comfort, one that could disappear the moment the line between rest and work began to blur. In the beginning, we promised ourselves we would stop at 5. We would take walks, cook dinner, read. But days started to stretch, and the hours between meetings filled themselves with invisible tasks. Just one more email, one more update, one more quick reply. The comfort of home became a disguise for exhaustion. No one saw the late nights, the quiet anxiety of being always reachable. It wasn't the boss that kept us working. It was the thought that maybe someone else was doing more. Remote work gave us freedom, but it also handed us responsibility without boundaries. There were no visual cues to tell us when the day was done. The same desk where we worked was where we ate, and sometimes where we slept. The home that once felt like a refuge started to feel smaller, more crowded with invisible expectations. We told ourselves we were lucky, that we had escaped the noise and chaos of the office. But late at night, when the screen was the only light in the room, that quiet felt less like peace and more like pressure. It was subtle at first, the fatigue that crept in without warning. We became experts at looking fine. We smiled in video calls, adjusted our backgrounds, added virtual plants to hide the mess behind us. But when the camera turned off, the silence returned, heavy and honest. The truth was, we missed the small things we used to take for granted. The walk to get coffee, the laughter that filled the hallways, the sound of other people existing near us. Connection had become digital, efficient, and hollow. For some, the comfort of home became isolation. Days blurred into weeks, and the sense of belonging that once came naturally began to fade. We were connected to everyone, but close to no one. The line "you're on mute" became more than a technical issue. It became a metaphor for how invisible many of us started to feel. We had traded noise for quiet, but the quiet was starting to echo. Managers began to worry about engagement. Employees began to worry about being forgotten. Cameras stayed off longer. Conversations grew shorter. People worked harder to prove they were still part of something real. But the truth was that the longer we stayed apart, the harder it became to feel like a team. The sense of shared energy, the heartbeat of collaboration, was slipping away. And yet not everything was lost. For many, remote work also revealed something empowering. We learned that autonomy could be beautiful when handled with care. We discovered that trust, once given, could grow stronger. Some teams thrived because they stopped managing time and started managing outcomes. Some individuals found focus in solitude, creativity in quiet. But even in those moments of success, there was an awareness that something human was missing. The comfort of working from home came with a cost that was not visible on spreadsheets. It was the slow erosion of belonging, the subtle loss of rhythm, the quiet loneliness that grew behind every muted microphone. We learned to adapt, but we also learned that adaptation has a price. Comfort without balance can become confinement. As months turned into years, we began to ask ourselves different questions. Not just, can I work from home? But should I? What does productivity mean when you never stop working? What does connection mean when you never meet in person? What happens to creativity when the spark of spontaneous conversation disappears? The answers were not simple. They never are. But one truth began to take shape. Remote work was not the end of the office. It was the beginning of a new negotiation. We had gained freedom, but we had also lost something precious. And deep down, we knew that no amount of comfort could replace the energy that comes from being together. For a long time, we believed that technology could replace connection. We built networks, systems, and tools to make communication faster, simpler, and more efficient. But somewhere along the way, we forgot that connection was never about speed. It was about presence, the kind that can't be scheduled into a calendar or recreated through a screen. The kind that happens when two people share the same space and breathe the same air. In the world of remote work, we gained convenience but lost proximity. We spoke through microphones and cameras, but something essential slipped away. The small gestures that say more than words. The smile across the table, the nod during a pause, the quiet encouragement of someone simply being there. Screens gave us access to faces, but not to the warmth behind them. The delay of a second made every laugh a little less genuine, every silence a little longer. We started to realize that work was never just about tasks. It was about energy, the invisible current that flows between people when ideas spark and overlap. In offices, creativity used to live in hallways, coffee breaks, and those brief, unplanned conversations that turned into something bigger. But in remote life, there was no hallway, no spontaneous moment to stumble into a new thought. Every interaction required intention, a link, a time slot, a password. The messiness that once made collaboration exciting had been cleaned away, leaving only structured silence. Many managers tried to rebuild connection with virtual hangouts, online games, or Friday check-ins. It helped, but it never truly replaced the texture of real life. People showed up with cameras off, microphones muted, minds elsewhere. The energy that once came naturally now required effort, and effort made it feel less real. We were connected all the time, but rarely together. There is something profoundly human about sharing space. The smell of coffee in the morning, the sound of someone typing nearby, the comfort of knowing you're not alone in your work. These things don't appear in job descriptions or productivity reports, yet they hold the fabric of teamwork together. Without them, even the best teams begin to drift. Misunderstandings grow quietly. Messages are misread. Isolation becomes the invisible wall no one talks about. And yet the return to the office was not the simple solution many expected. When people came back, it didn't feel the same. The rhythm had changed, the world had changed, and so had we. Some felt grateful to see colleagues again. Others felt out of place, as if they were visiting a memory instead of returning home. The laughter in the kitchen felt both familiar and foreign. We were together again, but also more aware of the distance that had grown between us. It was then that we began to understand something deeper. Connection is not about physical space alone. It's about shared purpose. The people who worked best together, whether in person or online, were not those who sat closest, but those who trusted each other most. Trust became the new currency of collaboration. When it was strong, distance didn't matter. When it was weak, even the same room could feel divided. Companies started to realize that culture couldn't be maintained by proximity alone. It had to be built with intention, with rituals, empathy, and clarity. The office could no longer be the only source of connection. It had to be one part of a larger story. Hybrid work became that story's next chapter, a bridge between presence and flexibility, a chance to keep what we had learned without losing what made us human. Maybe in the end, it's not about choosing between remote and office. It's about remembering why we needed either in the first place. We work not just to produce, but to belong, to feel seen, heard, and valued. And no technology, no matter how advanced, can replace that quiet truth. The human connection is not an optional feature of work. It is the work. It's what gives meaning to effort, warmth to results, and soul to progress. As the world continues to change, this truth will remain the anchor that keeps us from drifting too far into the digital horizon. As the world began to recover, the great experiment of remote work reached its crossroads. Companies that had once closed their doors were reopening them carefully, hesitantly, trying to decide what the new normal should look like. Some leaders believed that people needed to return, that true collaboration could only happen face-to-face. Others argued that the future had already arrived, and there was no reason to go back. Between these two forces, tradition and transformation, the hybrid model began to take shape. Hybrid work was not a revolution, it was a reconciliation, a middle ground between structure and freedom, between the walls of the office and the quiet of the home. It was born from necessity but grew into something more intentional. For the first time, companies started to listen, not to theories, but to people. Surveys filled with simple truths. Most employees didn't want to abandon the office completely. They just wanted choice. They wanted to work where they could focus and return where they could belong. The hybrid model promised to honor both needs. A few days at home for deep work, a few in the office for connection. It sounded simple, almost elegant. But simplicity in practice required design. Leaders had to rethink schedules, technology, even culture itself. Meetings needed to include everyone equally, whether they were sitting across the table or across the city. Teams needed new rhythms, new habits, and new trust. For many, it worked beautifully. Productivity stayed high. Burnout began to ease. Parents could attend school events without guilt. Workers in distant towns found opportunities once locked behind geography. The office became a destination, not an obligation. When people came in, it was for a reason. To brainstorm, to reconnect, to celebrate. Work became more purposeful, more human again. But not everyone adapted easily. Some companies treated hybrid as remote work, disguised in office clothes, bringing people back without clarity or intent. Others tried to enforce rigid rules. 3 days here, 2 days there, as if flexibility could be measured like attendance. The result was frustration. Freedom cannot thrive when it is forced. The success of hybrid work depended on trust, empathy, and alignment. Without them, it became just another schedule. Still, the world was learning. Technology evolved to keep pace. Virtual whiteboards, better cameras, smarter platforms that blurred the distance between home and office. The tools grew more seamless, but the challenge remained deeply human. How do you create belonging in a system built on movement and choice? How do you lead people you rarely meet? The answers came slowly through trial and patience. Hybrid work began to teach a quiet wisdom. Presence is not about place. It is about attention. It is about showing up fully wherever you are. The best leaders learn to measure engagement not by hours logged, but by the quality of ideas and the sincerity of effort. The best teams learn to trust invisible work, the kind that happens in thought, in silence, in care. And perhaps the most important lesson was this: flexibility is not a privilege, it's a form of respect. Respect for different rhythms, different lives, different ways of being productive. The office was no longer the center of gravity, people were. Companies that understood this began to thrive, not just because of profit, but because of purpose. In many ways, hybrid work became a reflection of life itself, a balance between solitude and community, between independence and belonging. It acknowledged that we are complex, that we need both quiet and conversation, both freedom and grounding. It invited us to design work not around control, but around humanity. The rise of hybrid work marked more than a shift in logistics. It was a cultural awakening. It asked us to rebuild work around trust, empathy, and understanding, to move from managing time to nurturing potential. And in that quiet transformation, we found a glimpse of what the future of work might truly become. Not a place, not a policy, but a shared journey toward balance. It took years for the world to realize that the great shift in how we work was not a temporary reaction, but a lasting transformation. We entered it with panic, stumbled through it with hope, and came out of it with lessons we never expected to learn. What began as survival slowly became reflection. When the noise faded, what remained was a quiet understanding of what truly matters, not just in work, but in life itself. One of the first lessons was discipline. Freedom sounds beautiful, but it demands structure. Without walls, time loses its edges. Without boundaries, even passion becomes exhaustion. Working from home taught us that autonomy is not the same as chaos. To be free, we must know when to stop, when to rest, and when to return. Many discovered that self-control is not about denying effort, but about protecting energy. The discipline that once came from offices had to be rebuilt from within. The second lesson was trust. We learned that leadership is no longer about watching, it's about believing. Micromanagement broke down under distance, replaced by a quieter form of faith. The best managers became mentors, not monitors. They learned to ask questions instead of giving orders, to measure outcomes instead of attendance. Teams that thrived were those built on mutual respect, where trust was not given blindly, but earned through consistency and care. In a world without shared space, trust became the new architecture. We also learned about communication, the kind that goes beyond words. Without body language, every message mattered more. Tone replaced presence, clarity replaced assumption. We realized that kindness could travel through pixels, and empathy could be written in simple sentences. The distance made us better listeners, slower speakers, more intentional communicators. It taught us that technology may carry information, but only empathy carries meaning. Another lesson was balance. The illusion of constant productivity had to break before we could rebuild something sustainable. We learned that rest is not the opposite of work, it is part of it. The old measure of success, once based on hours and visibility, gave way to a deeper one: impact. We began to value quality over quantity, purpose over performance. Some companies shortened their work weeks, others redefined deadlines, and slowly a new rhythm began to form, one that breathed instead of burned. And perhaps the most personal lesson of all was about connection. The years of separation revealed how deeply human work really is. Behind every email, every project, every report, there is a person, tired, hopeful, imperfect. We remembered that collaboration is not just an exchange of skill, but of spirit. When we returned to offices, we noticed the small things again: the sound of laughter, the hum of conversation, the relief of being seen. We realized that presence is not just physical, it is emotional. Companies learn too. They learn that culture cannot be forced into slogans or team-building exercises. It has to live in daily actions, in transparency, compassion, and fairness. Hybrid work became not a policy, but a promise to design systems that serve people, not the other way around. It challenged leaders to stop asking, "How do we get people back to work?" and start asking, "How can work fit better into their lives?" In the end, the greatest lesson was humility. The pandemic reminded us that control is fragile and certainty is temporary. But within that fragility, there is wisdom. We discovered that progress is not about returning to what was, but about growing into what could be. The future of work is not defined by location or technology. It is defined by understanding. And as we move forward, perhaps the goal is not to perfect the system, but to humanize it. To remember that productivity means nothing without purpose, and efficiency means little without empathy. The true evolution of work is not about doing more, but about being more. More mindful, more compassionate, more alive. The future of work is not coming, it is already here. It doesn't look like the world we left behind, and it doesn't fit neatly into the world we imagined. It's something new, something still being written in quiet moments of choice, conversation, and change. The office lights may turn on again, but they no longer define the beginning or the end of the day. The workday now lives inside each of us, where discipline meets freedom and purpose meets time. We used to think progress meant automation, speed, efficiency. But after all we've lived through, we see progress differently now. The future will not be built only by technology, but by understanding. The tools will change faster than we can count, but the essence of work will remain the same: people creating value together. Whether across a table or across continents, the meaning will always depend on trust, empathy, and shared vision. In this new world, success will not belong to those who work the most, but to those who work with the most clarity. The best teams will not be defined by location, but by alignment. The leaders of tomorrow will not command, they will connect. They will build systems that honor flexibility without losing accountability. They will measure health as carefully as results. They will create cultures where people are free to do their best work and free to rest. The lines between work and life will continue to blur, but perhaps that's not something to fear. Maybe the goal is not to rebuild the old walls, but to learn how to live within the new openness. The lesson of the past years has not been about distance or proximity. It has been about awareness. Awareness of how fragile we are, how adaptive we can be, and how deeply we depend on one another to make things matter. For workers, the future brings both choice and challenge. The freedom to design one's life will come with the responsibility to sustain it. No longer can we wait for systems to give us balance. We must build it ourselves. To thrive, we will need self-awareness as much as skill, curiosity as much as competence, and compassion as much as confidence. The workers of the future will not just complete tasks, they will design meaning. For companies, the lesson is equally profound. Growth will no longer come from control, but from coherence. The organizations that thrive will be those that treat flexibility as a foundation, not a favor. They will understand that purpose and profit are not enemies, but reflections of the same truth. People do their best work when they feel they belong. The future of business will depend not on offices or policies, but on cultures that value trust, authenticity, and care. The workplace of tomorrow will be a blend of moments and mediums, virtual and physical, personal and collective. Meetings will happen in rooms, on screens, and sometimes in silence. Collaboration will stretch across time zones and languages. The challenge will not be to keep up with the tools, but to stay true to the intention behind them. Technology may connect us, but only humanity can unite us. Maybe the future of work will not be about balance at all, but about harmony. Balance divides things into parts. Work here, life there. Harmony weaves them together into something whole. It is the rhythm that allows both effort and ease to coexist, that lets progress breathe. The people who understand this will not just survive the future, they will shape it. And when we look back on this chapter, we might realize that the pandemic did more than disrupt our routines. It awakened our awareness. It made us question what we value, what we chase, and what we truly need. It showed us that work is not a place or a schedule or a set of rules. It is a relationship between us and our purpose, between effort and rest, between what we give and what we grow into. So as the world continues to shift, maybe the answer has been simple all along. The future of work is not about where we go. It's about who we become while we're there. There is a strange beauty in silence after the storm. When the meetings end, when the emails stop, when the last screen fades to black, what remains is the sound of your own breathing. For years, we have tried to fill every quiet moment with motion, every pause with productivity. But the future that lies ahead may belong to those who can simply be still, who can find meaning not only in doing, but in being. We once measured progress in speed, how fast we could respond, how quickly we could grow, how efficiently we could turn moments into profit. But now, as the world settles into its new rhythm, we begin to see another kind of progress, the ability to slow down with intention, to work with clarity instead of urgency. The future does not reward the loudest, but the most present. Behind every tool, behind every screen, there is still a heartbeat. Technology may carry our voices across oceans, but it is empathy that gives them weight. Artificial intelligence can automate tasks, but not understanding. Algorithms can predict behavior, but not kindness. The future will test our ability to remain human in a world built by machines. And that test will not be about skill, but about soul. In the years to come, work will continue to evolve. Offices will change shape, jobs will rise and fade, and the lines between human and digital will blur further. Yet through it all, one thing will remain constant: our need to feel connected, to know that what we do has meaning beyond the numbers on a screen. That meaning is not created by the systems we build, but by the hearts that guide them. Maybe that's the quiet truth we've been circling all along. The future of work is not a destination, but a reflection. It mirrors what we value, what we fear, and what we choose to protect. And if we choose wisely, if we build with empathy, lead with awareness, and rest with courage, then work will not consume life, it will enrich it. Someday when we look back on this era, we might not remember the tools or the trends. We will remember the lessons, the ones written in silence, learned in isolation, and shared in rediscovery. We will remember how fragile the world once felt and how resilient we became. And maybe, just maybe, we will understand that the future of work was never about technology, policy, or distance. It was always about connection, the invisible thread between effort and purpose, between people and possibility. So take a breath, close the laptop, step outside, look at the sky, and feel for a moment the quiet that started it all. Because the future of work begins not with a plan, but with presence. And presence, after everything we've learned, might just be the rarest skill of all. As the story of work continues to unfold, maybe what we're really learning is not how to change faster, but how to stay still inside change. The world will keep moving, new tools, new rules, new ways to connect. But beneath all of it, there will always be something quietly human, waiting to be remembered. When the screens dim and the voices fade, what remains are the small truths we discovered along the way. That meaning grows in silence. That connection begins with attention. That progress is not about rushing forward, but about carrying wisdom gently into what comes next. Wherever you are, at a desk, on a train, or standing beneath the morning sky, take a moment to breathe. Feel the weight of your work, not as pressure, but as presence. The world doesn't need us to be perfect. It needs us to be aware, to listen, to care, to create with purpose. So as you close this chapter, remember, the future isn't something waiting for us. It's something we shape, one quiet choice at a time. And maybe, just maybe, the real work begins when we finally learn how to be still. Thank you for spending this quiet time with me. In a world that never stops moving, I hope this moment gave you space to breathe, to think, or simply to pause. If something here stayed with you, a word, a feeling, a thought, carry it gently into your week ahead. Let it remind you that calm is not the absence of motion, but the awareness within it. Wherever you are, at home, on the way to work, or in the middle of your own change. I hope you find peace in the little things and courage in the quiet. This has been Quiet Mondays. Thank you for listening. See you next Monday.